Nissan X-Trail. Each generation seems to have around 7 years of life, at least if we take the past ones as an example. So we still have about 2 to 3 years for this one. More and more vehicles are now getting the new Renault Group engines, so the 1.3 liter petrol, which I have to say is pretty fantastic, and this new 1.7 liter diesel, which people will probably choose if they want to be a bit more economical. So especially in a car like this, which is bigger, the X-Trail, which also has the 1.3 available, but this one has the 1.7, a 4x4 drive, and also a CVT, so this should be quite interesting. The third generation is here for almost 6 years now, but doesn't show it, which in part is thanks to the facelift a couple of years ago, which gave the model some snazzy looking lights. 19-inch alloys look good on this bigger SUV, even though I wouldn't want to drive those into mud and rocks. They get damaged and ruined too quickly. The interior of the car might look a bit boring at first glance, especially considering everything is black. But I have to say, most of the buttons seem to be in fairly intuitive locations, while sitting in the vehicle is just a nice experience overall. Even though I won't be testing the 4x4 in this video, you have the option of driving the front wheels only, all 4 automatically as required, or lock the front and rear torque 50-50. Comfortable seats are at the back as well, with plenty of space for the passenger's legs. So here we are again in the Nissan X-Trail. Last time with the 1.3 liter engine, and now with the new 1.7 liter diesel. And I know this has nothing to do with the engine because this test will focus on the engine, but I just wanted to say, when I picked up this car to drive it home, it's just so comfortable. I was really surprised, even though I've driven this car many times already, but it always surprises me that because the suspension is a little bit softer and the seats are just so comfortable, and also this armrest on the doors is very, very plush. On the contrary, the armrest down here in the center console is a little bit stiff, even though it is soft at first, but yeah, maybe a little more padding. But anyway, it's just such a very, very comfortable car to drive. And especially with the CVT, even though I'm not a fan of CVTs, this transmission doesn't really have gears, so there's no obvious shifting, which means that in the city it is very comfortable to drive as well. So that's already a big plus, and I haven't even touched the engine yet. So first, let's look at the acceleration, just because we're here already. So I'm doing 20 kilometers per hour, a little less, foot to the floor. There's a slight bit delay from the CVT, not much. It is fairly loud, and we're at 90, which is the speed limit on this road. So it's actually not a slouch, despite the fact that this is a bigger, larger vehicle. And it also does have 4x4 and a CVT. But yeah, it's surprisingly fast. It's not a racer though, especially with the softer suspension. You won't be doing any, I don't know, Nürburgring racing. There was something that really surprised me with this engine though. Because I already tested it before, I know that it's quite nice, quite torquey, fairly powerful, And also, it doesn't drink fuel like there's no tomorrow, like it's the world of Mad Max. However, with this car, I did expect a slightly higher fuel consumption because it's larger and heavier, but I didn't expect it to be this much higher. So the average fuel consumption altogether that we got in about 200 kilometers of driving now is 8.4 liters per 100 kilometers. 8.4! That's a little bit crazy. If I compare it to the fuel consumption when I tried to drive fairly economically, it was 7.0 liters per 100 kilometers. So that's a lot better, but still not quite where I'd like it to be, in the round six figures, in around the 6 liters. And I think I know what's going on. It's actually not so much the size and aerodynamics of the car, as much as it is the CVT. Now, the CVT, of course, was designed with economy in mind. So it would always be in the correct ratio for the best fuel economy. But with this one, even though I have it in drive all of the time, and two-wheel drive as well, I don't even have 4x4 engaged, it just seems to drink fuel. And I believe it's the problem of the software. So for example, when I was driving, 70 kilometers per hour, the RPMs were around 2,000, which doesn't make any sense. Today, cars like to go below maybe even 1,300 RPMs to really keep the RPMs low and economy up. But this one doesn't. So you have to put it into manual mode, into sport mode, quote unquote, and then upshift yourself. There's the fourth gear, fifth gear, even though it's not really gears, it's just ratios. And there we go. Now we are driving in fourth gear, which is where it really should be. And if you're looking at the instant fuel consumption, it does drop. So right now, I have my foot where it should be, I'm not moving it, and we're doing around 4 liters per 100 kilometers. And if I put it into drive, there we go, it immediately upshifts, and we're at 5.4-ish. Why? There's no reason. I don't need the power, I don't need the torque, but it upshifts, it changes ratios, RPMs go up. I don't really get it. But apart from that complaint, which I kind of feel is somewhat major considering that you take a diesel primarily to have the torque and the economy, I do really like this engine in this car. It does offer you the torque also for some mild off-roading if you wish, and is reasonably quiet at lower RPM. So if you're just driving through a city like this, it's quite nice. And like I said, even though I'm not a fan of CVTs, if you're at lower speeds like this and you just touch the throttle a little bit, it'll keep a constant 1700 RPMs and you'll be accelerating slowly. And there's no tugging, there's no judders of changing gears, so it is quite pleasant in that respect. It's just that fuel consumption that somewhat bothers me. An automatic should really be, nowadays, even better than you shifting manually with economy. So now we come to that question. Would I recommend this engine in this car, in this X-Trail? The answer is yes, I would. Because I honestly think that the new Renault engines are fantastic. The 0.9 liter turbo in the Twingo was a lot of fun and it was quite powerful. The 1.3 liter turbo is an absolute gem of an engine, whether you get it in the 130 or the 160 horsepower version. I probably wouldn't go lower than 130, even though they do have those versions. That's an absolute gem of an engine. And this one, I really think is very, very good. But not with the CVT, not with this one. Because like I said, the CVT is fine, but The software is just so weird. Shift up! I don't need 2000. I barely am touching the throttle. I don't need the torque. You're not gonna lug the engine in 1400 RPMs. Fortunately, you can also get this engine in 4x4 with the manual transmission. The base X-Trail with the new diesel starts at just under 28,000 euros. A fully loaded one with CVT, optional extras and 4x4 will come up to just under 41,000 euros.